Yeah.
it looks like Malik is able to make it, so he's.
Okay.
I just sent him the link, so he might come in.
I'll let him in. We are live on YouTube, guys. Happy Sunday, everybody. It's Sunday, and I am Miya Bass. For those of you who don't know me, I am Miya Bass, and I work for your college at the Men's Center, directed by Dr. Jonathan Quash. And I facilitate a program, an amazing program called the Fatherhood Initiative Program, in which we do not only resources for students who are fathers, but we also do programs like this, and we share discussions on really awesome topics. Tonight, we're going to be doing father figures. And this is not only important to me, on a professional level, but it's important to me on a personal level because the two gentlemen we have tonight are just my personal life changers and role changers. So we have, well, we see your name, Mr. O and Reggie Alvarez, but I would like you guys to actually introduce yourselves. So I'm gonna start with Mr. Reggie first. So I want you to say your name, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for. Go ahead, Reg.
My name is Reggie. I'm a minister at Christian Cultural Center. I also work in the youth ministry under Pastor Jamal Bernard and under Minister Dario Lariosa. I've been doing that maybe 20 years now. And that's who I am. That's what I do.
Okay. And Mr. O?
I also am a minister at Christian Cultural Center, and all of those things that Minister Reg just said apply. I won't repeat it. But I'm also a teacher for the Department of Education. I've been teaching for close to 25 years, middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And I'm also the dean of students, and a teacher of Spanish, foreign language.
Hey, let me unmute myself. Sorry. Wow, you guys have a couple of decades under your belt, so it's very intimidating, but also inspiring at the same time. So again, we are talking about father figures, and now I'm going to start with you, Mr. O. So I want to get into the inspiration, right? So where's your inspiration to just working with the youth? I know you're both DOE and ministry. So how did it all start?
The inspiration for it's interesting because how it started is not where one would think it would start. I was in 5th grade and was dealing with some serious identity issues in an attempt to kind of understand the cloak of the fatherless void, having a father that was present, absent, and going through that whole rotation. And I had a teacher who was a music teacher, Mr. Robert Newton, PS 260, and he was absolutely amazing. He did something that I didn't understand, but will always be thankful for. He took on the responsibility of fathering me in 5th grade as my music teacher. Wow. And what he did was he would come and pick me up on Saturdays, and take me to his house or take me wherever he was taking his sons, and just include me in his family. And it was absolutely amazing. One time I remember he even took me to a local PAL and was teaching us all how to swim. He treated me as if I were his biological son. And that was at a time, as young as I was, where I really, really, really needed to be fathered. There was a lot of hurt, a lot of disappointment, a lot of just chaos. And he was a source of alleviating and calming the storms, even that young. So that's where it really started for me. I think that's where the love of, and it's love. It's a ministry of love, of just wanting to reach out and father other kids, other young people. At first it was young men, and then it graduated and became, the young men and women that I had the chance of connecting with through the Department of Education. And every story was a a reminiscent song of my story, and it reverberated in me, and I wanted to be a source of that healing, the same way Mr. Newton was a source of healing to me.
Wow. That is amazing. So because this is my first time hearing this, and it all makes sense as, you're saying a teacher kind of poured into your life on a personal level, treating you as one of your own, and me with my own eyes watching you do that to other students of yours. It definitely makes sense. And it's a beautiful story, Mr. O. I want to go to you now, Mr. Reggie. What is your inspiration, and how did it all start for you?
Pretty similar to Mr. O, right?
Okay.
My father was very abusive, and he died when I was about maybe 10 or 11. But I remember not caring because I hated him so much. Wow. And it took some time to understand when I got saved that I hated him because I wanted to love him, right? He was my father. But he was so abusive. He was so abusive physically and verbally to my mom and to us that, I just grew up with this anger. But like Mr. O, I had a couple of experiences with a few men that I think sowed a seed in me that would eventually show up when I gave my life to God. It was my kindergarten teacher. His name was Mr. Kelman.
Wow.
A big white burly man, right? But I loved him because he was the first man that would get down on the ground with us and play with us. So something that my father never did. He laughed, he told jokes. He made us. I wanted to stay in school because of him. And then as I got older, there was a gentleman. One of my best friends. His name is James Thompson, and his mother was a Girl Scout leader. So I was always at his house, and the father would just let me stay there. Like I would spend nights there, and people actually thought I was part of the family.
Right, one of the family.
And it was my first interaction with a mother and father dynamic in the household. And then later on, my uncle, who's he was like the neighborhood mean guy. Like, you didn't mess with him. But he wasn't really mean. It was just the disposition of his face. Like he always had this scowl. Right. The way his face was made up. But he was the most incredible person. Even though he treated me like Uncle Phil. Like, I used to be like Jazzy Jeff.
Okay. Not Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, I used to stay too long at the house. And he used to always,
toss you at the house?
Yeah, because I didn't. It's like you don't have a home to go to, and I didn't. He didn't know that, but he eventually just let me stay. And then he gave me the honor of naming one of his children's kids. Like he said, I want you to give him a name. So that made me, So, and then of course when I got saved, Pastor A.R. Bernard, just seeing and hearing everything that I was missing in what a man should be and what a father should be. I was kind of getting it from Pastor A.R. Bernard, as well as Elder Pointer and Elder Shaw and all the, so those were my, my influences.
Inspiration. Yeah. Okay. Wow. What stood out to me is that you both remember these names. I'm like, I don't think I can remember anybody's teacher's names except for the ones that were really impactful. And I hope that if there are any educators watching, like I hope that they will keep that with them. Like sometimes you think, oh, my student graduated, and sometimes you will never be forgotten. Your 12th grader will turn into whatever, get their master's or whatever, and still be praying for you, thinking about you. So this is really amazing how you guys both had similar experiences within the education and people in your neighborhoods, and of course, Pastor. That's wonderful. Okay, so speaking of Pastor, we all, for those who don't know, we are from the same ministry. And our pastor really likes to operate off of definitions because it just clarifies things a bit and just kind of sets a foundation. So this time I'm going to start with you, Mr. O. And I just want to get, what is your personal definition of a parental figure?
A parental figure, father figure, mother figure, parental figure would be one who is willing to sacrifice all And I say that that's really important to understand because it's really it's a love exchange, um, and love is a desire to benefit someone else, even at the expense of yourself. So I say sacrifice all in order to um, be a bridge uh,
Mm-hmm.
over troubled water, in order to sometimes come alongside
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, an already pre-existing parental structural relationship that a child may have, and
Right.
I think that's really important to highlight as well, because um, even as I work for a parachurch organization called New Life for New York City, and I'm coming to this understanding of what a parachurch is. It's not a church that is to replace the church. It's supposed to be there in order to help support um, that, the experience, the church relationship that one may have. I'd like to think I'm not there to um, take the place of a parent. I'm not there to take the place of a father. I'm there to fill the gap as needed in whatever capacity as one would be needed,
Mm-hmm.
or to work alongside. Sometimes I'm there as a translator. Parental figure would be a translator, one to help sort of you know intercede and sort of intervene and help uh, clear up two people who may be communicating in two different languages, a mom
Right.
and their
Yeah.
children, a dad and their children. Um, it's really hard to kind of compartmentalize it into a single definition, but
Right. Of
those are
course.
definitely some things that that resonate with me. Mhm.
Absolutely. Mr. Reggie?
Yeah, like Mr. O said, it's hard to define. For one, I'm not a parent. I don't have my own children, and I'm absolutely overwhelmed. To be honest with you, and this is a true statement. I'm not saying it to fluff anything up, but I'm honored every morning to be able to be in some young person's life, because I always tell the kids that I always thank them for allowing me into their space. That's it's important to me, because especially in the times that we live in, there's such a gap between young people and adults sometimes. But when a young person can allow you into their world, and into their heart, I take that very seriously.
Oh yeah.
So I would define parenting again. I don't know. I don't have my own children,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, like, it's just being sensitive to the space that you're allowed into with a young person once they start thinking on their own. Once they
Mm-hmm.
come to that age where they start to become independent in their thoughts, and you have to be able to give them what they need. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it has to be tough, right? Sometimes it has to
Mm-hmm.
be tough love. It has to be everything has to be filtered through love. So sometimes the discipline may be hard. Sometimes you have to say some things that may not
Mm-hmm.
be easy. And I've
Right.
learned that watching parents, learning from parents. Like Minister O said, I don't look to replace, because
Mm-hmm.
most of the some kids have their fathers. They have great relationships with their dads. And I'm grateful that their dads are also entrusting of us
Hmm.
to be able to minister to their sons or their daughters. And so for me, it's just pouring the best of myself,
Mm.
good, bad, ugly, admitting when I'm wrong, admitting when I get it wrong, to these kids, and just as they give me the space, I also make sure that they have that space to come to me without judgment. They can talk
Okay.
to me about anything. I won't judge them. I'll just love them through it. You know, however God sees fit for me to.
Right. Amen.
Can I
Yeah,
also
go
add?
ahead, piggyback. Of
I
course.
appreciate Reggie in that, because Minister Reggie, one of the things that really resonated with me when you were talking, Reg, was that just finding that space humbly
Yeah.
and walking circumspectly, not only with the young people that we're serving, but with their families. There was an incident, not an incident, a time when a young man had one of the young men that I had met through the years had never really had that positive engagement with his father, and finally the dad began to reach out to him, and I had an occasion to meet him, and this was after many years of being, you know, um, walking in relationship with his son, meeting the
Mm-hmm.
father. And the first thing that I said to the father was what Minister Reggie said. I said, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your son's story. And he, oh man, it's just the impact of that on him it blew him away, because he was just kind of like, no, thank you. And I was like, no, really, Anna, thank you. And I wanted him to understand that even if it were, and I don't know, I only got one side, but even if through the years he was not able to arrive at that space of honoring that position as father, to this young man, I wanted to let him know that I honored that position. And I honored him. And I really believe, because today this young man has a very, very a much healed relationship with his dad. Amen. Yeah, much healed relationship with his dad. And I'd like to think that some of that took place, and that transformation in his dad may have taken place in that initial introduction that he and I had. So I'm really, really thankful for that, and I believe that's just another way of serving these youth that we love, to help or to be a source of healing in their relationships, specifically young men with their fathers. I used to tell a young man all the time. I used to say to him, he said, I hate my dad, I hate my dad, hate my dad. And I said, you know what? Then that's what we're going to work on until you have an opportunity to reconnect with your dad. We're going to work on getting you ready to receive him, work on that unforgiveness, so that when he does come, and I said, he's going to come. He's going to come. I said, every man wants to connect or feel alliance with their legacy when they come to the realization that they're not going to be here forever. Wow. I said, so he's going to come. The question is, will you be ready when he does? Wow. And that's our job. That's what we're going to work on, getting you ready when he comes. So it's an honored calling.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing, because, I wanted to hear you guys' definition. And of course I did my own research or whatever. And some of the stuff that came up when I was researching parental figure, father figure, mother figure, they mentioned boundaries, right? I've seen that a lot. I've seen the fact that, you don't want to replace, right? The idea of replacement. And that needs to be clear amongst the parental figure. That needs to be clear amongst the biological parent. And it needs to be clear with the student or mentee. Because, and again, we come from the same ministry, and our pastor talks about boundaries all the time. And if those boundaries are slurred, then, you can, some issues may arise. So thank you, Mr.
Can I share something about that?
Yeah.
There was a young lady who had, wanted to join the step team, the boot step team that I oversee. And she came out. It was her first night. She was like 15 years old. She came out on her own. From what I understood, she had an awesome time. And then, it was an evening rehearsal. So sometimes my rehearsals run late because the kids like to stick around and talk and all that kind of stuff. So it was almost 10 o'clock when I was leaving the church. This young lady was still sitting at the exit where security is waiting. And I'm like, it's almost 10 o'clock. So I asked her, excuse me, do you have anybody to pick you up? And she said, I don't know. And that bothered me. So I said, is there anyone I can call? And she said, my father. So I said, do you have a cell phone? She said, no. I said, I'll call him. Right. And I called him and I said, hey, excuse me, this is Minister Reggie. I'm from CCC. Because she let me know that her parents don't go to the church. And I said, well, your daughter is here. And I was wondering, I could sit here and wait with her. I usually take the kids home, but I'll wait until you arrive.
Wow.
And then he says real quick, oh, you could bring her home for me. Like that, right? Oh. And I said, I don't mind bringing her home at all, but I'll wait till you get here. And I could tell that he was a little annoyed, right? Mm-hmm. So I sat there and I waited. It took him 30 minutes. She lived in Far Rockaway. Our church is located in Canarsie. Right. He came. He called on my phone because he didn't want to come inside. So I told her, I said, give me a minute. I want to go and meet your dad. And I remember I went out to meet with him and I had to grab his hand and I shook it. And I had to say to him, because he was a young dad. When I looked at him, I realized he may have been like in his mid-30s. Mm. So I spoke wisdom to him in a very hard but loving way as possibly. because this is my first meeting with him. But I had to say it to him, right? I said, I just wanted you to meet me because there's no way you should allow any man that you don't know to bring your daughter home. And I had to say that. He had to hear it. And he didn't like it. His pride kind of, he was prideful. She never came back to that rehearsal. She never came back. She never came back. And I knew it was because of, or I believe it was because of his pride. But that's what it means sometimes what we do. It means like, because we have to have these boundaries to protect the children, to protect the parents, and to protect ourselves.
That's it right there. You got to protect yourself as well.
That's right.
Mr. O, do you have any similar testimonies in terms of boundaries?
I think one of the things that just kind of came to me is, well, as far as boundaries go, yeah, there definitely is, because I learned very early on that especially when ministering or helping and supporting young men whose fathers have been absent and mothers have been serving that role of everything. Sometimes as I step in to kind of serve alongside, I've been the boundary has not been necessarily with the young person, but more so with their mothers.
Okay.
Just as a male, knowing and understanding that dynamic of what can be evoked in a woman that sees another man fathering their child or serving in a capacity that they have longed to see, and it's a very vulnerable place for that woman, and I've had to learn to understand that boundary, because I have definitely seen places where coaches, mentors, leaders have taken advantage of that.
Wow.
And just caused more pain and more chaos for the child, and that was definitely not what I endeavored to do or to be a part of. Yeah, in that respect.
Before I bring in some of our mentees, the last thing I want to address is something that's really interesting. And Mr. Reggie, you mentioned the young lady and her dad, and Mr. O, you mentioned a few of your male mentees. Like, do you guys find a significant difference between like guiding or being a father figure to males versus females? Not the laugh. Go ahead, Miss Reggie, go first, Mr. Laughter.
I love my brother.
Yeah, Miss Reggie, you're gonna laugh. You first.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's a big difference.
Okay.
But also, I think I had to learn the way that I was cut. I was designed. I learned a lot from my brother, Lamont Oneil, who kind of, I learned under him. He was my leader. Still is, to a degree, right? Still is. I listen to him a lot, and a lot of what I do in ministry, I've learned from him. But one of the things I realized I'm cut different is that I'm really more catered towards women, and I think it's because of the trauma that I've seen in my own family with all the women in my family, and I grew up being the only male. I've seen my mother go through trauma, my sister go through trauma, and her daughter, my niece, go through trauma. And I've watched it. And then and it was so hard. I'm gonna be honest. It was so hard for me that I couldn't wait to get out of the house. Because I couldn't relate sometimes. I feel like I couldn't help, especially when the trauma caused them to turn on each other. And they would come to me to be kind of like
the mediator?
But I would feel like I had to choose sides, and it never worked.
Yeah,
I couldn't get out of the house. But the funny thing is that when I did, God put me in the ministry of women. And I thought it was hilarious. Like, he gave me a ministry called Remnant.
Yeah.
Where it was like 50 grown women at one time that I was leading. I'm like, how did I get here? But
He was preparing you.
I think God prepared me with my family and taught me how to listen. Taught me that I had a heart towards women. And then eventually, then I started the a younger ministry with the young girls, and he's giving me a specific kind of patience that I felt like I didn't have as much as I should have for young men.
Wow.
Yeah, and I needed to learn more how to be more patient with men, because I've learned how to be patient with women, but because of my own trauma, I felt like I didn't know how to to minister to young men. It took me some time. It took a lot of trial and error. It took me at least maybe 10 years to learn really how to do it. Yeah, it took me a while. I think I failed a lot. I've messed up a lot. I've dropped the ball a lot. But I was always willing to learn. And thank God some of those young men, we're still in each other's lives. Because they've forgiven me. We've talked about some things. We went back and I say, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that hurt you. I didn't know that I missed that. You got to be willing as a man, as a leader, you got to be willing to tell people where you've gotten it wrong, and hope that you can be forgiven and you can start over again.
Wow. Mr. O, what about your experiences? Males versus females? Huh?
Maya,
Listen, keep me out of this. I'm trying to remain objective here. Okay.
Well, let me just say in response to what Minister Reggie was sharing. It's amazing to me how even as a parent, a biological parent would feel that sort of that grief because they feel like they missed the mark or didn't do well or failed in some particular place, that we as surrogates, or we as father figures, parental figures, we go through that same thing, and that's real. It's really real, and we're and the same, because we're so vested, we're so like destiny tied. My destiny tied to your destiny. Ooh. So if you don't make it, I don't make it. If you're hurting, I'm hurting. And so I know with me, I definitely understood the place of calling to young men.
Yeah.
And therefore, thereby the Nubian gents preceding the group Feminine Fire. But I knew that it was important for there to be a feminine fire. Like there had to be that. I knew that whether I acknowledged that was a calling for me or part of my calling, it was calling me.
Wow.
And I had to respond. But even in responding, I was sort of doing out of doubt, doing in doubt. I was moving in faithlessness, not always moving in faith, so that when crisis came, and let me tell you, it's one thing to grow up, it's one thing to have a household of brothers and sisters, boys and girls, and being able to deal with the dynamics of that. It's another thing to grow in a household where they're not really brothers and they're not really sisters, and then they start dating.
Yeah, you got
and all of that,
hormones, the age.
Oh my!
Boys and girls, yeah.
And then trying to mitigate that and mediate that and understand, because I know the needs of the young men, but I'm learning also they're the needs of the young ladies, and now being able to manage that. There were times when I just felt I can't do this. And Maya, I can't do this. I can't do this. It's too frustrating. I'm not good at this. I'm making a mess of this. And my first instinct was I don't know if you remember, my instinct was, okay, I'm only going to do the Nubian gents. It should have always been the Nubian.
I remember that.
It should have always been that's where I feel, that's my place of comfort. That's my place of strength. So ladies, thank you for the time. But I thank God for Pastor Bernard, because, I don't even think I made it home from that rehearsal when we had this meeting, when I disbanded everyone and sent them on their way, where he contacted me and said, what are you doing?
Oh, wow.
He said, these are young people that have already been hurt. Many of them have already been hurt by their fathers, and you're now going to hurt them again.
Wow.
And man, that was such a wow. I mean, I was beside myself. He says, no, you call them back. You call them back into a meeting. You get them back together and you let them know that you're going to work, that you're committed, no matter how bleak it seems, no matter how difficult the situation is, you're committed to them. You're not going to leave them. And that's when I understood. I said, no, I have to learn how to father young ladies. It was easy for me to say, you know what, I can't really teach them because I'm not a woman. I'm not a mother. I can't really do it like so. I would get others to come in and try to bridge that gap because I just felt I wasn't. And I was like, no, I have a responsibility to learn. I have a responsibility to study. I have a responsibility to become any and everything that each and every one of these young ladies.
Wow.
And today I say that I love the ladies. I love the young ladies, Feminine Fire, as much as I love the young men of Nubian Jazz.
Aww.
So
I forgot my tissue. Wow, man. Woo. I mean, that pretty much goes back to what you guys were saying about, the parental figure, whether it's a mother figure or father figure, they kind of still experience the same, challenges as the biological parent. It's the same challenges, a single mom raising boys or single dad raising girls. There are all of these dynamics that we have to go through, and sometimes we need support. Maybe Mr. O had to speak to Mr. Reggie one day, like, bro, like, how do you deal with the girls, and vice versa? You know what I'm saying? Or you got somebody like Pastor that's checking you, like, do what you have to do, and here's some resources to help you, but we're gonna get you through this. So, I mean, thank you guys for sharing these testimonies. And before I bring in Malik Imani, and I see Brittany's back, I just wanted to say thank you guys for this. This topic is really important to me. And let me just say that, I just think the topic of fatherhood, right, is just really, really interesting. And when I was delegated this program of your college, I was like, me? And I just find that beautiful because my director was like, you'll be surprised how much you'll learn. And this program started years ago, run by women. I was just like confused, like, no motherhood program. But what I'm learning is that there are, like, when it comes to fatherhood, there's so many stigmas, and most of them are negative. Like, it's either that dads are deadbeat, or there's a stepfather doing a great job, but that ain't my real daddy, so I don't respect him. I'm like, wow, like, dads just don't, not even for Father's Days, like, there's no commercials. So I really appreciate this platform to emphasize the great fathers. I don't care if you're biological or not. Like, if you're a father figure, and I know you guys are modest, but I'll just say for the company watching, you guys have fathered and guided probably hundreds, maybe thousands of students, overseas that you are still in communication with, or right here within your own community. That's a lot. You know what I'm saying? So, for us, I think it would be remiss of us to not acknowledge these great dads, both biological and non, and then those who are fathering 10 kids, 100 kids, 1,000 kids. This is a really great opportunity for us to shine light on you guys. So I personally want to say thank you guys for taking on that role. It's a really, really important role, and it took a lot of sacrifice, a lot of passion, and just like a regular parent, financial sacrifice, emotional sacrifice, spiritual, like praying nonstop. That's a lot. That is a lot to go unnoticed or unrecognized. Not saying you guys need the recognition, but I mean, who am I to not, give my gratitude and my kudos. As Mr. O would say, kudos. Let me bring in, I see you, Malik, Imani, and Brittany. How do I change the screen so that my head is not all big and everybody, yes, this is the platform I wanted. Great. Okay. So we have the beautiful Brittany, the beautiful Imani, and Malik. So basically, you guys have been watching, and you were in the broadcast room, so you were pretty much hearing what we were saying. I'm going to start with Imani first. I just want to hear a little bit about your perspective regarding your relationship with these men, these amazing men here and leaders, and just tell us a little bit about your perspective regarding this topic.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. O, Reggie. Hey, Maya. Thank you for having me on here, first of all. And I just want to say that I met Minister Reggie a couple of years back, transitioning from one step team to another. I came on to Boots, and he welcomed me with open arms from the first day, like a real father. And from that very moment, he said, "You're my daughter." And those words always resonated so deeply with me. Even like right now, I'm getting chills as I'm talking about him. The experience has just been amazing. Since day one, Reg has always been in my corner. He's always been very supportive. He's always been very compassionate, especially when it came to my schoolwork, my education. He's always been there. He's always been very influential. And as a young adult growing up, that's very important for me. My actual father is present in my life. He's very active, but he's not physically here. And so that void of that physicality was always missing. And just being able to have a relationship with Reg, he's always been able to fill that void for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Imani. Let me go to Malik. I would like you to chime in. Tell us a little bit about your perspective on this topic of father figures and you personally. How has it affected you?
Good evening, everyone. I can definitely say that it's affected me tremendously. Like I said, people saying like my father was like I said, he's present here on this earth, but not so actively was in my life at the time where I definitely needed a father figure. And it was like by the grace of God, that's where I met Mr. O about 10 plus years ago. And he definitely stepped in and without knowing me at all, definitely embraced me and, kept my head up through anything I went through. The times I was wanting to give up on myself, give up on everything, he definitely never let me walk away. Like there was not a time that I could sit there and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with this team. I'm done with this. And he would not let me walk away without having a conversation before, just letting me know that you could try to walk away, but you basically not going nowhere. Like, and that's exactly what I needed. And because my dad was missing, and I always favored. I tried to favor my dad more than my mom. So it was a huge factor that was missing, and he didn't realize it. But Mr. O definitely stepped up in a way that I can't. I said, there's not amount of thank yous enough that can actually thank this man for everything he's doing. And even right now, as I have a relationship with my dad right now, because he's finally realized that I can't. I don't know who this boy or this young man is, but whoever raised him or groomed him to be where he is definitely had a work cut out, but they definitely did an amazing job, and he still gets on me like it was 10 years ago. So he definitely so that's very that's how it goes right now.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, Malik. Miss Brittany, would you like to please share with us, darling?
I joined the ministry when I was 14 years old, and I'm going to be 26 this year.
Wow.
I remember when I first started getting a personal relationship with Reg. One of the first things I told him when he said, he said in rehearsal, like, I want you guys to know that I'm here, however you need me to be here, whether it's as a father. And I remember getting in this man's car, because he's about to drop me home from rehearsal, and telling him I didn't need a father. Because I was just so hurt, that hurt causes you to be closed off to accept that kind of love. You don't know how to accept it because you don't even really know what it looks like or what it's supposed to look like, So And Reg didn't combat me. He didn't. I don't think he said anything. But he continued to love on me from that point until now.
Wow.
So, that just goes to show the type of men that we're talking about here. Like, we're talking about men who are dealing with not only what they see, but even things that are said, because some, as a teenager, you don't know how, as I said, you don't know how to accept certain things. You don't know what it's supposed to look like. So yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
Woo! Oh man. So I mean, we have about 20 minutes left. So if I could just squeeze this question into the 5 of you guys. Speaking of which, I do see Elise, but I don't think I have. I think I'm restricted to 6 people at a time. So I'm gonna try to work this out. I see you, Elise. I'm gonna try to get you in. But the last staple question I have is basically what is or was your greatest reward or greatest takeaway from having this dynamic of being a father figure or having a father figure? I'm gonna start with you, Brother Reg. Greatest reward?
The greatest reward of being a father figure? My God. Well, let me say this first. I think, you asked what was the inspiration. Also. And I wasn't going to share this because it's really, really, really kind of painful. But my relationship with my sister was a difficult one. And I felt like I failed so badly as a brother that I did not want to feel that failure again. So, I mean, me and my sister, we have an okay relationship now, and she's gone through some things that I won't share. But she's been, it was a lot of damage that I wasn't there to protect her from because I was off doing my own thing. So I think that my dedication comes from that place as well, like not to let nobody who God puts in my life down, not to let them down, And so I think the greatest reward is right here on this panel. It's being able to have an ongoing relationship with these beautiful people, with Brittany. Me and Brittany has been through some wars. And God, again, we learned through trial and error. There were times when I didn't think I was doing everything right. And maybe I should leave her alone. And God said, no, man, that's your daughter. Who does that? And just love her, and she'll love you. That's it. With Imani, with all the other kids who constantly call me. And the most beautiful reward is when sometimes when I ask myself, and I don't know if Mr. O has gone through this, but there are times, because I'm gonna be 54 this month, actually. Woo, 54 years old.
Wow.
And I remember when I turned 50 and I didn't feel relevant. I was going through something and I was sitting there just brewing in my thoughts, bringing myself down. We could bring ourselves down sometimes, right? And I'm saying, I'm no longer relevant. Who needs me? You know what I'm saying? Like, let me just step down and let somebody else, whatever. Then I got a phone call from a young man who used to be on the step team when he was like 12. He's a grown man, and he was telling me how much he loved me and how much he appreciated me. And I needed that call. I needed it so badly at that time. And it was God's thank you. It was God's kiss. Say, you're still relevant. You are who I made you to be. And there's no time limit. There's no age limit. And so I think that's the sweetest reward, is to be able to remain relevant, to remain a blessing. Doesn't matter how old you get. Love is love.
Wow.
Right? Don't grow old.
Woo! I wish we had more time. It's such a heavy question. I understand. And I'm pretty sure the rewards are, I don't mean to limit you guys, but it's listen, you are loved. And I mean, it's just overwhelming for me just sitting here, just hearing these thoughts that I haven't heard before, like you feeling irrelevant versus thousands of kids feeling like you are extremely relevant. You know what I mean? Wow, this is really awesome. This conversation. I want to go to Mr. O next. What is one of your greatest rewards? I'm pretty sure you have many, but what is one of your greatest?
I've had time to think, so I'm gonna go deep.
Okay.
And it's twofold. One in body, but really twofold. And the first is, I used to always tell the team members, that my job would be done in terms of my service to them when they are fathers of their own, and when they are husbands, and just contributing, constructively, positively to their communities, their homes. I've learned that's not the case. We're still going on.
Yes,
but
you are.
I think that the gist of it all is that for me, the greatest reward is seeing them moving in that capacity as fathers or as father figures. And, even as much as, I've had the blessed opportunity to work with you and serving children, and just seeing you cultivate that love and that passion to serve youth. And even right now, Malik works with me for the DOE at school.
Wow.
I get to see him and look forward to laboring with him, day in and day out, and just and watching you guys work that gift of just being able to connect with kids and be a source of their healing. It's amazing. It's amazing. So that's the earthly reward. The second fold of that is the heavenly reward. And I just got to go there because there was an old whining song that said, for we may never know all the people we have reached, for we may never know all the lives that we have touched, but we know that he knows, and a record he does keep. And when the end finally begins, we will receive a great reward for all that has been done. Like, our reward awaits in his name. And I don't know what it will be, but I'm looking forward to just our Heavenly Father saying, well done, good and faithful servant, take your place.
My God, that was pretty intense. I love it. And we love you guys. And it is a reward for all of us to still be in your lives and have these moments. Like, it could be any moment during any day. And then if I'm faced with a situation, I could reflect back on a principle or a moment that I've learned from Mr. O and Mr. Reggie. So we are rewarded in a grand way, like you guys are saying. And also there's these like little rewards and just a reminder of your presence in our lives, which we are really super grateful for. Does anybody want to chime in, Britt, Imani, or Malik, in terms of your greatest takeaway? Anybody?
You go ahead.
Go ahead.
Greatest takeaway. I think similar to what Mr. O said. I think like thinking about the future for me, because I haven't reached those specific milestones yet, but thinking about like, okay, when I get married, I told Reggie the other day, I said, when I get married, I don't know if you're gonna give me away or if you're gonna like give this.
Wow.
That's it. So that's a beautiful thing to be indecisive about, right? Like,
yeah, multifaceted.
Yeah. My greatest takeaway is just his presence. I don't know. It's just their presence. To be able to, if I'm having a bad day, if my mother's getting on my nerve, if it's good news, I can call. I can say, Reg, we gotta talk. Let's go eat. Let's do this. Just that access. Those principles are indebted into my being, definitely.
Wow.
Definitely, you know, in everything that I do, in every relationship that I have now, whether it's a friendship or, you know, even just being an auntie, being able to pour in that way and know how to accept love from a male.
Yeah, that's true
right?
too. Mm-hmm. That's
That's
important too.
my relationship with Reggie definitely taught me what love is supposed to look like from a male.
That's true. Setting the standard. They set that standard. And those are some hard shoes to fill. Okay? You come and you better come correct. In fact, I might need to see a beard. I need to see a question. Let me stop. Your name got to begin with an L, just so I know. Let me stop. I'm kidding. But no, Brittany, that's really important. I didn't even like think about that in terms of dating, right? Just and even for the guys too, the women, like we learn from Mr. Reg and Mr. O in terms of like what that manliness should resemble, what that godliness should resemble, and the men are learning how to act like that man to their prospective wife or whatever the case may be. Right. So yeah, because we're youth. Well, I'm like 90 now, but stepping into that era of like dating and marriage. We were there stepping, but we were learning way more. Okay, so that is definitely a really great point, Brittany. Absolutely. Lord. Anybody else want to chime in? Imani, go ahead.
The Bible says, train up a child in the way that they should go, so that when they're old, they will not depart from you. And I believe that Reg has definitely trained me and instilled valuable principles in a way that I will not depart from him, and spiritual principles that he has taught me that I can't get anywhere else. So I'm grateful for that. Like Brittany also said, one of the greatest rewards is just being able to pick up the phone and call him whenever we want, whenever we need him. You can't always do that with everyone. And that's definitely a big reward for me. And just being there. Thank you, Reg, just for being there. That's
I don't have any tissues nearby. Okay, thank you so much, Imani. I love you. Thank you for sharing and being a part. You're my sister from another sister. I'm gonna try to squeeze in Elise. Whoa. Pumpkin, hi. Wait,
hi everyone.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I have to make my Mr. ODOE money so I can upgrade and have more than 50 letters. Until then, welcome.
Welcome. It's so good to see everybody and hear everyone. I was just having a great time just listening and observing, and
in the green room,
just blessed just being here. And that's so interesting that Imani had just brought that up, because I legit called Reggie this morning.
Oh, really?
and asked for prayer. I legit asked him if we could pray, and Reggie is always down to pray. Reggie, he's always down to pray and down to give you a word. And he told me when he was available, we were able to get on the call right then and there. And just to have someone that's always there. Like, I've known Reggie since I was 12, 13. I'm in my 30s now. And it's amazing. Like Reggie said, like, love, it doesn't get old. It's constant, it's enduring. And Reggie has always, like, whenever someone asked me about Reggie, I said, Reggie is love. Reggie is love to me. Like,
he is.
When I think of Reggie, I think of the love of God. And I think that's the love of the Father that just like flows out of him. And it doesn't matter where you are in life, or if he hasn't seen you for 20 years or whatever happened, that love is going to be there. And so that's what keeps people. And that's what draws people to the Father, at first. And so Reggie is always loving. And so the legacy, I feel like the Father's is just love. And so when you experience that love, you're able to share it. And I think that I'm able to give that love because I've received it.
Wow.
And so, and now like the Lord has me in a place where I'm actually leading the youth ministry in my church. Oh. I would have never thought that. I never had, aspirations to lead the youth ministry. I never had thought about that. But then God reminded me of being raised up in a youth ministry, being raised up under Boots, and just be like, give them what you received.
Wow.
Woo, that's it. Like, give them what you received. What is it that you learned? Whatever you've learned, received, heard from me, seen in me, put into practice. And that's what I've been trying to do, and God has been there. So Reggie, he's been there even to hours ago in my 30s. So, amen. So that's it for me.
And what about you, Malik? You want to chime in? What's your takeaway?
One of the biggest things I take away from this, like I said, it's just, like I said, Mr. O just, like I said, I had some extremely dark times. So just me being able, like I said, to wake up and speak life into different people each and every day is what I take away from it, because there's a point in my life, I'm not gonna get too deep, but there's a point in my life where I was like, it was literally like, I'm not gonna be here for another couple of hours, another couple of minutes, and things like that. That's where my headspace was. But like I said, and it could be like the most random times when Mr. Oneil will just call me. I'm like, yo, like, what does this man want? Like, especially, and I'm going through this stuff, like this super dark path mentally, and it's like, yo, but first of all, like, I don't want to hear from him right now. I'm in this headspace. I don't want to hear from him. But then, like I said, just hearing from him, he's just all chippery and like, okay, well, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, nothing. And like, you can't hide it from him because he's just like, he just knows. And like I said, I have to thank him from all of those times, even though I didn't want to hear from him. I didn't want to hear from anybody. But it's like I gotta think, like would I be here at this moment? Like, if he didn't call, if he didn't randomly reach out. So it's just like every time that I do, every time that you, like I work at the DOE, I speak to a kid doing exactly what he did to me. It reminds me every time that, this man picked up the phone when he didn't have to. This man sent out a random text message when he didn't have to. He reached out and invited me to go eat, just have a conversation, just do something. It could be as small as like, just, help me, just come with me to go get my car wash or something like that, and just have a deep conversation, and that just move you from one headspace to the next. Like, you just have to be extremely appreciative about all of that stuff. So that's what I take away from it.
Wow. Woo! Oh my God. We are closing in on time. So I'm just going to do a closeout and just give my little last feedback. Thank you again for everybody. Mr. Reg, Mr. O, Elise, Brittany, Mani, Malik. Thank you guys for sharing. This conversation is really important. And it was very personal because we all know each other. But for those watching and those who will watch this, I also hope that they have takeaways as well. Because the idea is, if you've been watching from the beginning, the idea is, our leaders were led and they were inspired by someone and they paid it forward, and now we're paying it forward. And that's the idea, pretty much, to one, recognize that parental figures are just as important as the biological ones, because there's so many rewards in it. And two, just taking away what you've learned from them and just repeating it, and just, it's a circle of life, paying it forward. And then Malik's student, he's going to pay it forward when he gets older. And that to know that you've poured into, several generations in that way is beautiful. People really, complain about their personal dads and biological dads. And one of the things I kept hearing tonight from you guys was, the access. Like, I get to call Mr. Reggie, or Mr. O calls me. And like Pastor says, access is a gift. So that is a reward within itself. Like, some of our own personal daddies don't text us back. Okay. So having that access is a gift. It's an important gift. And we just want to say thank you once again for giving your lives and giving your passion and your time and your prayers and your finances and your personal houses for our big heads. And I'm sorry, I just need to separate and go to Mr. O, because I've spent even more years at Mr. O than I have Mr. Reg. And Mr. O, I've watched you grow, just like you watched me grow. I watched you grow. I'm like, I see the struggle. I'm like, he gonna get it. You know, I've seen you. You know how you watch someone try to figure it out. Like, I've watched you from beginning, middle, end, and I just I just want to say thank you, and I acknowledge that hard work. Just watching you, like, kind of. I've seen you fluster and challenge and taking these situations and giving it to God and telling us and teaching us how to pray. And we used to give devotions in the auditorium of 231, and just, you know, so as you watch us grow, we watch you grow too. And as an adult, I'm like, wow, to watch this man, you know, essentially you started the Gents, I believe you're like 25, just start this group with all these kids, and then from then, you know, skyrocket off and deal with these challenges of starting with like 20 kids to 40 kids to 60 kids and flying everybody overseas. That's huge. That's huge. And then dealing with those boundaries with the biological parents, and then dealing with the boundaries of the students or the STEP team members. These are all huge challenges that you guys have dealt with. And again, Mr. O, not to sing you out, but I have watched you since I was 16, and I'm now 20. And I've watched you, you know, go through these challenges, and now my heart is like, wow, if I have ever complained or ever, you know, flipped my hair, like, I repent. Like, this is a huge task. You know, this is a huge role, a huge responsibility. So it would be remiss of us to not acknowledge that sacrifice. And we thank you. And this is our opportunity, and it won't be our last opportunity, to show gratitude for everything that you two have done and continue to do. And I want to say, I love you so much.
Love you.
Love you too. Love you all so much.
Love you all.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm going to end the live, but I want you guys to stay on for like 2 minutes. But thank you, everybody in YouTube, for watching. Bye.